Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Human design is an amazing system. It's not just a system to show you who you are as a design, who you are within the system. It also contains truths about living, truths about experiencing, truths that are very deep and indeed transcendent. It teaches us that in human experience, we're here to expand through that experience. We're here to progress. We're here to go into it. And in that process of experience, we run into crisis and we have to come out of that crisis at some point. We are living at a time when there is crisis around us in the world. And I wanted to use this time and this video to talk about that, to talk about how do you find refuge within the storm? You know, where do you go? How do you do it? How do you survive when there are so many things coming at us? Well, we go to the Rave I Ching. So what is a refuge? The Ri in refuge is about going back or going backwards. You know, a refugee is literally someone who is fleeing backwards. And it's about, in that sense, the refuge is to go back. And when we're thinking about going back, we think about the abstract process and the cycles that are going this way or going this way. And when we look at what is looking back, it's the channel of the prodigal. It is the 1333. And in particular, the 33 contains some useful hints for us when we come against something that we can't overcome. In life, we're going to meet things that are not easy. We're going to meet things where we are ill prepared to cope with them, whether that be in relationship, whether that be in business, whether that be in travel, whether that be as a parent looking after children, trying to care for them to the best of your ability. In all these different cases, sooner or later, we come up against something where it's like, oh. And in those cases, you look at the 33rd gate. The 33rd gate is the gate of privacy. It is the hexagram of retreat. So let's have a look. The general heading above it says active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength. Now, the key word there is active withdrawal, active withdrawal. You can't go forward because you are overwhelmed by whatever it may be. The forces are too strong. An example these days is the force of information that is hitting us at all levels about this and that and all the confusion that's coming. Active withdrawal, actively retreating, coming back, fleeing back into something that is protected, a protected space within you. When I was growing up, you know, I lived in what would today be called a toxic atmosphere, I think would be the correct term. And I remember there was a time when I wanted to move on in my life. I was 14 years old and it was very difficult at home. But I found a refuge in the local library. It was about 1.5 miles from where I lived. And I could go there after school and it had light, it had electricity, it had warmth, it had peace and quiet. And it was from that library, at a time when libraries were for reading books rather than the more social activities that are now happening in many libraries. So in this library, I was able to do my homework. I was able to think. I was able to be in a place of privacy where I could study, where I could get myself out through education into a better life. That was my refuge. When you think about the different lines that we have, and when you think about the first line is an insecure line. And where it's insecure, it has to study, it has to investigate its weakness in order to see how to overcome that, in order to understand what the weakness is and how to turn it into a strength. So it is in my nature as a 1-3 that when in a weak position, I will study exactly what it is that's going on. I will do my best to penetrate to the core of it and overcome it through knowledge. A second line theme will just shut off. They'll just shut off. They'll go into their hermit mode, and that's it. You're not going to hear anything from them for a while. The third line will just break the bond. They'll break the bond, and if they're stupid, they'll throw out the baby with the bathwater. But they will break the bond in some way. This is built into the lines. The fourth line in their externalization, if they're not being listened to, if they're not being heard, well, then they will go back and they will then talk to others that are more open to what they have to externalize. The fifth line, well, you just will hear from a friend of theirs maybe 3 years later that they're now living in another country. The stranger of consequence, so the fifth line will probably just bugger off. When we come to the sixth line, we come to a process that I've talked about before in these YouTube videos about the experiential process of the sixth line. And when we come to the sixth line, I'm going to read it to you. When we come to the sixth line in the 33rd gate, we come to the line of disassociation. There's blue writing above this description, the ability to let go. And because it's a blue line, it's telling you that it will take it's a lifetime process in being able to let go. And in the exaltation, we have the will to concentrate on revitalization and not be handicapped by persistent recriminations, the ability to let go in retreat, to enjoy privacy. And the detriment is the inability to completely let go. So in retreating, it's not just that you retreat because of the overwhelming forces, you retreat to a place of privacy where you can let go, where you can just come home, where you can breathe again, where you feel secure. You're no longer in a weak position because you've moved yourself away from whatever the forces were that were overwhelming you. But it's also about feeling into what it is to let go, to feel how wonderful it is to just be private, to be in your own space, and to go even deeper and feel how good it feels to be private in your own space. And from that space, to begin to let go, and in the letting go, you begin to see things in a new perspective. The experiential process is about the perspective that changes through our experience, through our lifetime, through our journey in maturity towards wisdom. So in letting go and allowing yourself to let go, then new perspectives come up. And it's also a cyclic aspect because the experiential way is cyclic. So in letting go, you get to see things in a different perspective, and then the potential comes to be able to start a new cycle based on something that has already been successful, to be able to see what the strengths are in you that you can build upon to have a new way of dealing with whatever it is that you're trying to deal with. It is an active withdrawal. It is you taking control of the situation by actively leaving it. It's very important to understand that a lot of people, when they, in their lives, when they are faced with things that they can't handle, they end up over manifesting. They end up trying to push things to make things happen. They meet resistance as a result, and everything gets even worse. You know, you can't manifest yourself out of a life situation, whatever that is. Not really. If there's the change that has to happen within you. So I love this. I love this 33rd gate. It's very much about you're seeing what experiences that you've had and where they may be useful elsewhere, where they may be useful to share. After all, this is also the gate of remembering. It is the gate of revelation. It is the ability to share one's experience, to remind people about what happened in the past, but also so that they can learn from it. But sometimes we need that. When the storm is so strong, you know, my advice is cut off the stimulations. Whatever it is that's coming at you, come to a place of privacy. Come to a place where you can let go. And from there, things begin to change. Because the other thing about the experiential abstract circuit is that there's always change. For those of you who don't know your design and you would like to know more about it, there is a link in the descriptions below for a free report. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like and share and especially subscribe. It does help. And I will be back very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.